are live, and welcome once again to another episode, another adventure in live stream stories. And today I'm super excited because I've got a special guest. His name is Nick Demos, and he is a Tony Award-winning producer, writer, filmmaker, and of course, storyteller. And that is going to be the focus of our topic today. We're going to talk about how to use storytelling in your marketing. That's the topic for today. So, how exactly, we all hear this thing about storytelling. I talk about, I'm a big proselytizer that using story is a good idea, especially if you're doing video, like live video, like we're doing right now. And if you're doing that, like if you're thinking about, okay, what story should I tell? How long should they be? How do I, relate my storytelling or anything that I'm talking about to my actual work or my business or my life or anything like that? How does this work to make me any money? So that is what we're going to explore. And my guest today knows, he is a master storyteller, basically. And there's a lot of things that we're going to dive into. And before I get to that particular moment in time, I have to acknowledge that this series, the live stream story series, is sponsored by our friends at Restream, which are basically the platform that we're on right now. And Restream allows me and will allow you to stream not only to just one place, like you could go live on Facebook, like a lot of other people do, but you can go live on Facebook, you can go live on LinkedIn, you can go live onto YouTube, you can go live onto Twitter, you can go live up to 30 different locations. And right now, we are streaming onto all those places. So if you're here from any of those spots, if you're here from LinkedIn, say, hey, I'm on LinkedIn, say so in the comments. And if you're here on YouTube, say, okay, I'm over on YouTube. And this is a way that any one of us can host a live event like this. And if we have friends on LinkedIn, but we also have friends over on YouTube, and we also have friends on Facebook, which we all do, we can bring them all together and have a big party. And that's what we're doing today. So if you're interested in joining and signing up for Restream, here's the link to join, restream.io/join/show-up. And you can get in, I think you basically can join for free. And if you want to upgrade this, using this link will give you a special discount and a special deal. So there we are. Now I've paid the rent. And let me welcome Nick on board. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to be here. And so I want to, from the beginning of when we're talking about storytelling, can you share something around like the moment in time, like a light bulb moment for you, or one of your major influences of why did you become a storyteller? And I'm going to warm this up because while you're thinking about this, you probably have like 10 stories to tell here. But I'm going to just say, for me, and since you're a musical guy, one of the very first things that inspired me and sort of made me the person who I was going to see The Music Man on Broadway with Robert Preston was the guy. He was the man, the Music Man. And I saw that show. And again, I was probably only 5 years old. But after seeing that, I wanted to be the Music Man. We used to listen to the music and sing all the songs, and I'd be shouting out Gary, Indiana, and all that kind of music. But his whole thing about being enthusiastic and being able to go into this jaded community out in the middle of nowhere and get everybody excited about doing something. I was like, that's me. I want to be that.
I want to be that.
And from that moment forward, I've been carrying, all the things I've ever done in my life have been something sort of Music Man-ish, even though it may not have anything to do with music. So how about you?
Well, I love that musical story. So my mother would say that I was a born storyteller, that from the time I was a little boy, I would jump up onto tables and I would recite. I would recite books. I recited all I had from memory at 4 years old, all of the Grimm's fairy tales. And I used to tell the tales. By 10, I had a magic show that I created. Great the Nick, it was called, and and I would gather the kids from the neighborhood and put on these elaborate productions. And I fully produced them. It's no wonder that I eventually became a producer, because not only was there a show, I would have a lemonade stand, as refreshments. That I sold. Even then I was about making money as a storyteller. I knew where the money was. It was in refreshments, right? It's in the bar. So I was a natural storyteller, I think. And I grew up in rural Montana, so there was no musicals. There were no musicals. There was nothing professional for me to see. In fact, I really didn't see a professional musical until I was in one. As crazy as that sounds.
Wow.
I grew up across the street from a dance teacher in Montana, and I sat and I would watch the girls dance. And I really wanted to dance, but boys, this was in the 80s. Boys did not dance in the 80s, right? It was not socially acceptable for a boy to be a ballet dancer in rural Montana. But I used to sit.
This is shades of Billy Elliot.
Yeah, it really was shades of Billy Elliot. And I would sit and I would watch the girls. And finally, the dance teacher said, Nick, why don't you come up and join us? And really, dance was the first way in which I fully expressed myself as a storyteller and as an artist, that I felt really fulfilled. We moved to Michigan, thankfully, and there was a great dance school and theater school. And by 16 years old, I had my first professional job. So it happened very quickly for me. I knew what I was going to be very, very early. I knew two things. I was going to teach, because that was the other thing that I love to do, and I was going to tell stories.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So Montana to New York.
Yeah.
How old were you when you moved to New York?
I moved to New York at 19 years old,
Wow.
having never been there before.
Wow.
I knew two people. I was Peggy Sawyer from 42nd Street with my tap shoes and my suitcase. I truly knew two people in the entire city. I'd never been there before, and I just said, I'm going. And I did. So, you just never know where life's going to take you. And at that age now, I'm like, what was I thinking? At the time, I was so young and, dare I say, naive, that anything could possibly go wrong. I just had self-belief that I could make it, basically.
Yeah, well, that's quite remarkable and actually quite inspirational. And what I'm wondering is, like, okay, so you actually had quite a bit of success. Not everybody gets to, first of all, have a show make it to Broadway, and then only a really tiny fraction of those shows actually wins a Tony Award.
Yeah.
So, awesome. So what happened? I mean, you're now out in California, in San Francisco, and you're not doing that same thing anymore. How did you, what was the shift that happened for you?
Here's what happened. I had spent time as a performer and then as a director and a choreographer. I ran a regional theater in Oklahoma and then eventually came back to Broadway. And as one does, when one hopes for the best with a Broadway show, but only 20% actually succeed. 20% make back investment. And we were nominated for Tonys, which was really exciting. And that day, that Tony day, that night, they were announcing the winner of Best Musical. And it was Bernadette Peters was up there reading who was the winner of the Best Musical. And it was our show. And everyone stood around me and they were so excited and so happy. And, you could do the energy, and they were jumping up and down for joy. And there is a CBS still of this moment, caught. I have it, where you see my face, and this is the expression on my face. And I remember this moment very clearly. That's what's even more crazy about this moment is I remember it because in my mind at that moment, I wasn't happy. I was relieved. I was relieved because I knew that my investors were going to make their money back and we were going to be a hit. That was relief. And B, I had this moment of this is it. This is what this moment is. This is what this moment is supposed to feel like. This isn't what I thought I was going to feel. And I'm walking up to the stage, to, as we're going to accept the award, the producing team, and I'm walking up there, and I'm in this like cloud. And in my mind, I'm like, now what? I'm not even 40. Now what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Am I going to go try to do another musical? I didn't really even enjoy producing this the way that I thought I was going to. What am I going to do? All this on the way up, and what's supposed to be the greatest moment, the culmination of years of hard work and experience. And so in that moment, I couldn't quite process it. Afterwards, I had a tumble. I had a hard time. Success isn't always what it looks like. And I had a moment of, oh, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing and how I'm going to do it. And that's really when the work came in for me of digging into who I was as an artist and the impact that I wanted to make in the world, even more so. How did I want to help people? How did I want to tell stories, and in what way? And I began documentary filmmaking. I created into the short film. I started to express myself in a way that was outside of the theater and the way in which I knew it to be. And I still love the theater. I'm producing a show currently. I'm a co-producer on a show currently it was running until the pandemic. It's back up in Australia, actually. We just opened. We had opening night 2 nights ago in Australia.
Wow.
Back, Australia's back. But I knew for me that shift needed to happen. That something needed to change.
Yeah. Okay. So you've shifted. And how do you describe what you do now?
So I teach storytelling ultimately to entrepreneurs to help them connect with their audiences, to convert to sales for those that sell products, and to really create impact in the world in whatever way they're here to do that.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to raise my hand and say, I'm interested in telling stories.
Okay. Somehow I knew you would be.
And I'll bet that the people who are watching right now also are interested. If you guys are watching, you can raise your hand and say, yeah, me too. I want to tell a story. So if I'm thinking about telling a story, and at the same time, I'm also going to self-identify, like I'm an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just here to tell, fairy tales. I want to tell stories that, work for me. I want to use this as part of my way of communicating my message. I want to use this as ways of attracting my audience. I want to use this as a way to, connect with people so that they go, wow, cool, let's do something together.
Yeah.
So where do I begin? Like, what is your viewpoint of okay, so if I'm thinking about story, what's the place to start?
Yeah, I think the first place to start is just start. That's number one, is just actually start telling stories. Because as a storyteller, you get better and better and better the more stories that you tell, period. In your personal brand, for those that are personal brands or entrepreneurs, move out of your own way. That's the biggest thing that I see, is that people get really attached to their own self, whether it's, I don't have enough stories to tell. I don't have good enough stories to tell. I hear that a lot. My stories aren't good, or what I call Hallmark stories. It doesn't need to be a Lifetime movie or a movie of the week. You don't need to have, gone bankrupt or, been homeless to have a story. In fact, some of those aren't really relatable. Relatable stories really help with your marketing. And by relatable, I mean everyday little things. Going to the store, and what you experienced. That's a story if you can connect it to you and your brand.
All right. So how would I go about finding, what do you do to collect stories or to?
There's several processes I have, but one that I really, really love and is called flow writing. And this is a stream of consciousness writing where you sit and you just write, and you write and you write and you write and you write, and you don't worry about the words. You don't worry about, because I know a lot of people get tripped up too about like, well, I'm not a writer, I don't know how to write. It's not about that. It's like a meditation. It's like a written meditation where you just keep writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. And I do this every day, particularly when I'm in a place where I'm wanting to create some stories, create some material. And you don't necessarily even have to look at it right away. In fact, I suggest not looking at it right away, but then going back and at the end of a week or 2 weeks and going back and circling things. Because what you'll find is that you become this channel for inspiration for these stories. They just start to come out of you and you don't even realize that it's happening. You can go back and you can circle them. And then I create a list and I throw it into a Dropbox file of story ideas. And then I can go to that and be like, I want to create a story about something that has to do with, and I go to my file and there they are. So I had a student who you actually know, Tara is her name, and Tara has podcasts, and so she needed stories for podcasts, but she was really stuck. She felt very blocked by it. And I gave her the flow writing exercise, and she was like, oh, no, I don't want to write. I don't like to write. Yeah. But she did it. And 3 days later, she said she was in the shower. She wrote me. She said, I was in the shower. She said, and all of a sudden, all of these ideas started to come through. And I think it was because of the writing. She said, and as I was getting out of the shower, I almost slipped and fell on my butt because of it. And what I loved about that was that
Great story.
It was very meta. She was telling a story about learning to tell stories.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great. Right, cool. So I just, I'm going to pause for a second because we're getting a couple of comments.
Sure.
Environmental Coffeehouse is thanking you for what you're doing. And this person says, we tell truths about climate change and environmental ecocide. I'm learning video making and editing, but really no one cares about how badly we are destroying the planet. That's so interesting. Do you have a comment on that?
Oh, yeah, wow. Yeah, they do care. There are some of us that care. And that's another thing to think about is who are you speaking to? Who is that ideal person? And speak to one person. Rather than speaking in general terms, the more specific you can get when you talk to one person direct, even though hundreds and thousands and hopefully millions of people are going to hear your message, when you can talk to one person, they feel like they're being heard, like that you're connecting to them. And make it about them. Make it about them and not about you. When you get out of that your own way, like I was saying, and you make it about somebody else, you make it about that customer, that client, that person that you want to reach, that audience member, they feel more connected to it.
Yeah, I like that. The whole thing about being about them. I mean, I've heard you talk about, and I've heard lots of people use this as well, the whole hero's journey.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? I mean, the whole thing, like, explain who the hero is or should be in your story.
Yeah, the hero or shiro, heroine, whatever you want to call the person, if they're, depending. They are not you, which is where the biggest mistake I see people make in storytelling for marketing is that they make the hero them. The hero is whoever it is that you're trying to reach, that customer. They need to be the hero, and you are their guide. On the hero's journey, the hero takes a journey, an arduous journey that he sets out, or she sets out, and has what obstacles along the way. They meet a guide who helps them transform. And then they return with the new knowledge that they've gained back to the tribe, back to the community. And so all of our stories in marketing, not all of them, but a good number of them are these transformational stories. And when you position your customer as the hero, And you as the guide helper, they connect to that story, because what happens in our brain is our brain can actually synchronize with that story. And so it makes us feel more connected to it. Makes us feel connected to you then, you're the brand, because of it.
Yeah, the whole thing about, it's all about, your story wants to be about the people who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Like, carry that forward in terms of like, it's you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm now donning my guide role, and I'm wanting to guide people to a particular pace. And so, and I'm telling my story, what are the other elements of my story that are going to help people move, do any kind of movement?
Yeah. So the thing is, while we're telling our story, we position, yet we're still positioning ourselves as the guide and not the hero, right? People want to know what really happened to you. For instance, I just told the story of the Tony, right? But I told you the conflict. I didn't just tell you the end. I didn't say, oh, and I won the Tony and it was fabulous. People don't want to hear that. They already know that. They think they know that, right? What they want to actually hear is little moments along the way. Now, here's the thing. We can get bogged down with too much information. It's really important, especially in marketing. And this is any story. Edit, 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 edit. I could tell you from working with like writers for years and years and years, my pen comes out, the red pen. I feel like a school teacher, and I just start, red penning it, because when we give too much detail or too much information, it bogs people down. Choose a couple of key moments. Think about when I was telling the story of the Tony, I told about the CBS still, right? I told about that moment of, wow, this isn't the life I wanted. I didn't tell every detail of walking down the red carpet and then, where I sat and then who it was, and celebrity I saw. Like, I didn't get into all of that. I got into the key moment.
Right. Right. The moment of transformation.
Correct.
That moment where things shifted in your brain. Yeah.
Correct.
The thing that I understand, and this is sort of the brain science of storytelling, is that when you have somebody, the character, the hero, and they're dealing with something that they're struggling with, that's got an emotion attached to it.
Completely.
And we as the audience feel the same thing. Like, that's the brain syncing that goes on. We feel the same emotion.
That's exactly what I meant about that synchronization.
Right.
That because of that emotion, they then take on the emotion. You begin to feel that emotion as if it were your own. And that's how they really connect with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you, because you told me as we were warming up, I know that you have been doing some Facebook Lives, like to the tune of like 3 Facebook Lives every week.
Yeah. For the last 2 years, essentially, about 3 a week. I did actually a couple 30-day challenges for myself, but ultimately about 3 a week.
Right. So first of all, I'm just going to say that anyone who's here, even if you're watching this during the replay, if you want to learn more from Nick, check out his Facebook and start following his live videos, because he's on 3 times a week, like an open book. And he'll guide you. He'll be the guide for you and tell you stories. So so I want to speak to this particular medium. Like, we can tell stories in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We can write a blog post. We can take a bunch of photographs and post them on Instagram. That's another kind of storytelling. I can make a documentary film, if I want to get that deep into that. However,
which I do and I love.
Live video is this thing that we all have that's sort of literally at our fingertips. I mean, we have one of these in our pockets everywhere we go. Everyone can just, hit the record button and go live wherever they happen to be and start telling stories. So tell me a little bit about your experience in doing this and using, like, when you're going live, you can't edit. You have to be like, okay, I'm going to do this now, and it's live. And that's, on one hand, it's really refreshing. You're liberated. And on the other hand, you're not going to be able to go back and like change things.
I love it because it has this immediacy, you know? Like, I think that's my theater training. Theater is that ultimate, immediate, intimate moment, and then it's gone. With the lives, they stay up on your scroll for a while, right? You can always scroll back. But it's that moment that you share with the audience, so unique that we can answer a question, a live question. I love that relationship. I think that's why I love it so much, is that it has this, like, it's right now. It's right now. That's what I love.
Exactly, yeah. So when you're live in the person, the thing that I really like about storytelling on live video is we get to do engagement. Like, we get to go back and forth. So for instance, you know, we've got Sandy here, and I'm assuming Sandy is, I don't know, Sandy's kind of a gender neutral name. He or she, Sandy, is saying,
or they
use restream to multistream. That's a good question.
You know what?
Testing?
I didn't know of restream until this very moment, and I have to tell you, I'm going to go back and look at it now, because I've been using Be Live, which is another one of them. But I'm really digging what this looks like, and so I am going to check it out for sure.
Yeah, I like this tool partly because you can do, you know, these nice fancy overlays, backgrounds, make it look the way you want. Like, you can really create your own look, environment, feel, that kind of thing. And it can be just about anything. Like, there's a lot of advanced things that you can do with this platform. And the big thing that I like is that you can stream to multiple places.
Yeah,
so that, you know, if you have a big following on Instagram, you can go there, you know, at the same time that you're on Facebook.
Yeah.
And if you want to explore, well, I know that there's a bunch of people, like budding storytellers, over on LinkedIn. And those people, like the people on LinkedIn, you know, they're professional and they want to learn stuff, and that's why they go to the platform. And so if you're there helping them out, that, you know, you win the game.
Well, I love this because it's really hard to be in lots of places at the same time. You talk about this a lot, of having to choose, right, where we're going to be. And this actually offers an opportunity to be in many places without doubling the work, because there's only a certain amount of time you have in the day, and there's only a certain amount that you can, at the energy that you can put into one or the other. This is brilliant. I like it.
Yeah,
I just wrote it down. I was like, oh, I'm learning something here today. This interview might be about me teaching, but guess what? I'm learning today.
Well, I'm also going to just say that, you know, in your case, like if I was you, you obviously know and have great connections in a bunch of places, but including the Broadway world, the theater world, and going live and telling stories with some of those people coming on would be fascinating to anybody who's tuning in. And this ability to have the live interaction with those people, you know, along with their stories, and it almost doesn't matter. Like, if you have someone, you know, I don't know, let's say there's an actor or actress who has a big following on YouTube because they have a YouTube channel, and then you can be streaming on your Facebook, but you can also take advantage of the fact that they have a big following on YouTube and their people will join, you know.
I love it. I love it. This tool is going to change my business, I think. Thank you for this.
Yeah, sure, no problem. And thank you to Restream for making this show possible. We really thank all this. So, okay, so we got it solved here. Sandy says I'm a woman.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy, for being so interactive here. And all the rest of you guys, I know there are more people on here. If you've got questions or comments or anything, go ahead and put them in the chat, and, you know, we'll have more of a conversation as we keep going forward. So I'm wondering, here I am, like I'm literally, here I am, and I'm live on Facebook, and I'm engaged in storytelling, and I'm getting commentary, like here we are, we got Sandy here engaging with us. You know, what do I do with Sandy to get her to take action? Like okay, she's like, I want to compel her. Like you and I both want to compel Sandy to go out and start telling stories and start telling better stories. What do we do?
Yeah, I think there are two things to think about when you're telling your stories on Facebook. One is that you are breaking down the objections that your customer may have. And a lot of those objections are internal. So a lot of what you will see see from me on Facebook is breaking down those limiting thoughts and beliefs and reframing them for people. So they will then take action. And the only way people will take action is if you give them a call to action. So it's vital that every single Facebook, if you're doing Facebook Live or wherever you are now, live, you offer a call to action. People don't do anything unless you tell them to do it. That's like, you know, I'm not going to clean my room as a kid unless my mother says, go clean your room.
Right.
And we still, as adults and as business owners, we don't do anything till we're told to do them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, of course, you know, you gotta, somebody has to hold your feet to the fire and say, okay, you're going to do this. Like here's the steps to take.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And it's your accountability of sorts. And if you want your audience to engage and come back, that's part of it, is that they take some small action. These don't need to be big action steps. In fact, they probably shouldn't be. They should be teeny little, what we call, you know, micro conversions or micro steps, so that when you do have a bigger ask, let's say you're selling a course or you're selling a product of whatever kind, that you've trained them in a way to take action, A, and B, they feel comfortable with you, because those little actions that you have them take help lead to a bigger action step.
Yeah, so let's make the connection between storytelling and selling. Because I know that for most folks, a lot of people that I work are, you know, they're very well-intentioned, you know, probably like Sandy. She's, you know, going, I've got this thing, I've got this cause that I'm doing, I totally believe in it. And I will bet you that when it comes to making sales, like asking people for money or donations or whatever it is that she's doing for her work, that it shifts into, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be a slimy, you know, pushy used car.
Inauthentic. Yeah. All of those things.
Right.
Again, it's not about you. It's not about you. We make it about us. We make it about our story. If I don't want to be icky, I don't want to be inauthentic, I don't want to be. If you share your story and you position it right, they're going to automatically want. They're automatically going to want what you have to offer. And you won't feel so icky about it because you're just sharing. You're offering knowledge. You're offering a story. You're offering something to them. And then it becomes an energy exchange rather than I'm selling you and I'm going to do a hard sell and it's going to be really old school and icky, and we can tell those marketers a mile away, and nothing makes us back up further from that now. But when you tell truth, when you offer a slice of life, people connect, and you don't have to feel like you're selling. It feels like you're sharing and offering and giving.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there's something about the trust that's built through this process that people just kind of, you know, like if you talk in a way, especially through the realm of storytelling, if you're talking in a way that people really connect with the story and therefore they connect with you, and the story moves them, like inspires them. There's something about the story that go, oh my gosh, I have to do something now. Like I'm ready to go. And, you know, they're going Eureka and they're jumping down the street. This is where, like, that moment, like, okay, well, if, you know, whatever the next step is for them in terms of the journey that you're taking them on, they're ready to go. Like they're already raising their hand. They already know they like you.
They're like, I'm here.
That's right. And you don't have to sell them anything. You just have to say, okay, well, you can sign up right over here. Like here's the door and come through here.
and it really becomes that simple, that easy. And it sounds like, oh gosh, really? But honestly, it does become that, where people then almost are like asking, well, when are you going to have that? When are you going to have that?
Right.
I liken it also to when I'm selling. I liken it to a movie premiere, old school style. Not now, obviously, but old school. Back when we used to go to the movies, it was coming soon. We didn't even know what it was. What is the story you're going to tell me? Right? We just know something's coming soon.
Right.
And then it became premieres on such and such a date. Right? And you just had the title, or maybe you got like a couple little things. And so it's this gradual process of sharing the story with your audience, so that by the time it comes, they're clamoring for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. All right, so I think we're developing a fan here. Sandy says, I love you guys. It's so good. This is the joy of doing live. Right. So, okay. So tell me, like, we're gonna approach the end of our time together. This has been really fun.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
You're welcome. No, I mean, really, thank you for taking the time. Actually, I have to point over here. Thank you for doing this today. This is awesome. So tell me, like you have been doing storytelling in so many creative ways.
Yeah.
Like explain some of the transformation in your own life that's come from the fact that you've been a successful storyteller.
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. And I would say that it's an evolution, that my journey, it's like a constant opening. And just when you think you understand something in storytelling, it takes you to a new place and you learn something else that's brand new. And I think that's why I've enjoyed it so much, and why I've tried so many different forms of storytelling, because I learn something new about myself every story that I tell. Like right now, I have a personal documentary that I'm doing, and it's forcing me to be open and vulnerable on camera in a way that, yes, I come on here and I can talk and be open and talk about my past, but this is a camera into my life at all times. And it has shown me where my fears are, where my doubts about who I am are. That is. You know what I meant. There you go.
It's okay. It's live. We don't need to edit.
Can we edit that? Can we back up? No, we can't. But it really has. It's like when you turn that camera on and live, talk about vulnerable, right? You're just opening yourself up, and it's been glorious. I think it's really been glorious to grow through storytelling from that little kid who was jumping on the tables and performing to the adult now who's being open and honest and vulnerable about my triumphs and my tragedies both.
All right. So anyone here who's watching, and again, I'm speaking to you guys in the future who are going to be, because many more people, every one of these, it ends up like thousands of views over on YouTube, especially. So you guys who are watching this, if you are wanting to get to be a good storyteller and you want to learn from Nick, tell us, Nick, how can they follow up with you? Where's the good place to, contact?
Yeah, so those Facebook Lives that we're talking about.
There we go.
Instagram, I hang out a lot on Instagram, and which is both of them are at the Nick Demas. Nick Demas was already taken, believe it or not. At the Nick Demas on basically across all platforms. And my website, if you want to come check that out, is thenickdemas.com.
All right, cool, awesome. So all of the above. So have you got a pending course or thing that you're doing that?
Bravo that you ask, because I start on Monday
On Monday.
on Monday a free 3-day live training.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's about
Did you guys hear that?
on Monday.
3-day, if I would have known.
3-day
time.
live training.
Right.
On Monday, and there's time to register for that. And
Okay. So if I want to do that, where do I go?
yeah, you go to www.storytellingtomakesales.com.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to write this down. Storytelling to make sales.com. In just a second, we're going to put this on the screen right here.
There you go.
There it is, storytellingtomakesales.com.
And you can register for the 3-day live training.
Oh,
and if you can't make it live, don't worry about it. There are replays that you get sent. So, because that's always a question. Well, I can't make it live.
Right.
That's okay.
Right.
That's
It's okay. There's a replay. That's the beauty of it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today. This has been fabulous. You guys who are watching, please join me every single Thursday. We are doing this again and again every Thursday, 3 o'clock, for more live stream stories. Thanks once again to our sponsor at Restream. If you too want to be a live video person, you can, and you want to multicast, like you want to show up in all the places where all your friends are online, you can use this tool right here. Oop, it's right over here. Restream.io/join/show-up. And that will get you into all of the places where everybody is online, which is amazing. It's an amazing thing. So thanks again for joining. And we will see you guys in the next video. So long. Yahoo.